Yo, it's Stuart, and welcome back to yet another video. One second, let me take a sip. So you've probably heard the role of a UX designer being described as the voice of the customer or the voice of the user. And people say this because the UX design process is all about trying to understand people, how they interact with technology, then translating all of that into some sort of solution. So it sort of makes sense. Plus, it's a quippy line that's easy to remember and easy to understand. So, for better or for worse, it's really caught on. And even in my office, I've heard it several times when people are trying to understand or explain UX design to other folks. But in this video, I wanted to come clean and say, I don't believe it. I do not believe that UX design is the voice of the user. And let me explain why. Hey. Scotch this time. I couldn't finish shooting last night, so I'm picking it back up tonight. On to Labor Day weekend, so I could kick back a little bit, so hence the scotch. Where was I? So in my experience, and having talked about this very topic with other designers, on any given project, there's always going to be someone or some group of people who talk to the users way more frequently than you or I do. I mean, these are customer support folks or account reps, maybe software training people if you have that in your company, and of course, sales. Designers for sure should be conducting their own research, and I for sure do, but I don't do this every single day. It's not necessarily part of my job to do it every single day. I do it as frequently as possible and definitely when projects arise. But these departments and these folks, they do this every single day. That's a part of their job. So as UX designers, as product designers, we should be using our UX design process to incorporate their feedback into the design process and in coming up with a solution. This doesn't mean that I think that they are the voice of the users. That's not what I'm saying. Because if you're sales, if you're customer support or account rep, I mean, you're interacting with the users in a particular way every single day, and it's only a fraction of the user's voice. For example, if you're in sales, you're talking to the users because you're trying to sell them the product. You're an excellent gauge of what they value and what they would pay for. But you're not a good gauge for how they interact with the software on a day-to-day basis and what those pain points are. Another example, if you're in customer support, chances are you're an excellent source of information, but the feedback can be either too detailed or too much of an edge case where it only applies to a minority of the folks who may be having challenges and not to the majority of the people. So as designers, you and I really need to be able to leverage our UX design process to know when to not listen to some feedback from different departments sometimes. I know it's starting to sound like I'm contradicting myself, but I promise I'm getting to the point here. So, of course, UX designers then should be conducting their own research, making sure that they're talking to the end users directly as regularly as possible. And if you're doing it on a project by project basis, that's a given. However, if you only focus on the users when you're creating a solution, I actually don't believe that you will be a successful designer. I think you have to consider the business's voice because I think that what the users need and want has to really overlap with what the business can feasibly provide for there to be some feasible solution that's going to work. So designers need to use their UX design process to also incorporate the business perspective into the solution. So by now, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about, because it may sound like I'm talking in circles or I'm contradicting myself. But my point here is this, that users are the voice of the users. No one else is the voice of the users. And that's why the UX design process, the designer's process is necessary, because you need to know how to take different types of information, what to listen to, and when you're trying to develop your solution. So where does that leave UX designers, product designers? How do you describe the role? What is it? So here's my take on it. I believe that the real role, the true role of a UX designer or product designer is to be the facilitator and the translator for a solution, towards a solution. Because at the very core, designers are in the business of asking good questions, taking disparate sources of information, molding it and translating it into a solution that both users want and need, and that makes sense for the business. I know that there's already a lot of content out there about how to define the UX design role or product design role. But when I've looked at all of those, I really wasn't satisfied because I thought it didn't really match my day-to-day reality as a product designer. So I took a stab at my take on the definition and trying to articulate that back to you, and also socializing it with my coworkers and my broader network of designers and people in the industry. And the reason is this definition is really important for how people want to collaborate with you, how they view you as a professional, and how they want to view your work and the value that you bring. So if this video, what I'm sharing with you, my definition, my take on this has gotten you thinking, I would love to hear your perspective, because I know there's a chance that we may have different takes on it, or what I shared may not be matching your reality, and I'd love to know that and start a discussion. I'll see you guys next time.